Okay, I'm going to carry on giving my roundup of my lesson. So we've had incredibly dichotomous group. We've had unfinished poster group. Another group was a really good group actually. They were. It's bad that this was surprising because they were Asian kids, and I just expect Asian kids to be naturally more homophobic. But it was a group of guys. It was guys as well. It was a group of guys who did a PowerPoint um, about LGBT issues. So every slide was devoted to another LGBT issue, and it's kind of like how homophobia affects gay people, how homophobia affects straight people, which I thought was a really good thing. Um, about homophobic discrimination, about LGBT celebrities. Um, so they did that. That was really, really good actually. And when I was talking to the group, the main guy, there's always one main guy, it was on his computer, the main guy was talking me through it, and he seemed like he really, really understood the issues, and that was really pleasing to hear actually. It was really pleasing to hear him say these words. That's a massive barrier, I think, a lot of the time, actually having to say these words in a not dirty way. So that was really good, I felt. Um, there was a little bits I had to correct, but a, not like horrible bits, not bits where they'd been nasty or anything, but just really, really little bits. I was scrambling for things to say, actually. The acronym they used was wrong, the letters were in the wrong order. So I said that, I said it, and he apologised for it, but I was like, no, don't be sorry, it's not offensive, it's just not the recognised term for it, you wouldn't be able to Google it. And the other thing was he referred to gay people as gays, and I don't know if that's completely PC. I know that I'm not comfortable with it, but it seemed to be a term that people were using in a really value neutral way. So that was okay actually. He did change it though once I said that I'd be uncomfortable with it. So that was really, really good. Another group was very disappointing actually, and they were the only group who didn't receive all 6 ticks. It was 2 girls, and they had done a presentation on LGBT musicians and sports people. They had a presentation that just said LGBT on the front slide. Their second slide was one sports person. Their third slide was one musician, and they hadn't really done much at all, to be honest. One of the slides had 1 bullet point on it, and as I was talking about the person in the slide, it was a slide in Elton John. As I was talking about it, just trying to gauge their interest in it, and have a discussion, they were just writing down on the slide what I was saying. Like, I was their research, which is quite bad. So I didn't tick all of that. It seemed like they put no. They were friendly enough, and I asked them how this project went for them, and they said it went okay. So obviously they weren't very engaged with it at all. They didn't care, and it's fair enough to not care. It wasn't that bad. They're definitely not getting a certificate for it because it didn't show 4 hours work. It showed barely any research. All it showed was that they knew who Elton John and Gareth Thomas were, and they could copy and paste fairly well. But it's fair enough. They just won't get an award, which they'll be fine with because they don't seem to care about it. So that was them. And the other group that I had was the group which last time on my last visit was quite homophobic, and I had a massive chat with them. So their presentation was called Ethnic Sexuality. They did a presentation. It was 4 slides long. They admitted to me that they found it really hard to find information on this, which I took as a good point because it meant that they had actually looked for information. I said, have you looked on our website? And they were like, yeah, there's nothing on there. So they've gone to outside sources to find information on it. So that was really good. It was a really good looking PowerPoint, I'd say, and they spent a lot of time on the animations. They were quite proud of the animations. The text itself, the text was copied and pasted. from various websites because I googled it. It was incredibly dense. Hardly any of it was in their own words, and it was a lot to do with stats. It was just lots of recounting of stats. So it was obviously it was in a lot more mature prose than they could have done as well. And this is not a patronising thing. It's a certain style of writing that students just don't write in. So they hadn't done really anything apart from added they'd looked for information from different sources clearly, but all they'd come up with themselves was a line at the end that said something like, we should let people respect who they choose to be, or like respect people's choices about who they choose to be. And I corrected them and tried to do it in a nice way and just said, you know what, like, you probably shouldn't put that because there is a debate about whether you can choose whether or not to be LGBT, and most people say you can't. It's like you can't choose who you fancy, can you? They were good though. They did more than I had expected them to do. They were meant to do a video and they didn't in the end. They did a PowerPoint, which was fine. But they did like they deserve to get certified. No, certainly not a top 10 group. They deserve to get certified for what they did, I think. Although most of it was copied and pasted, and they didn't understand what they were talking about. Okay, I retract that statement. I don't think they deserve all 6 ticks. I can't think of the other group. Is there another 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? Okay, well, I can't remember the other group that I went to see. Anyway, so that was a good lesson overall. Came out of the lesson, went down to the canteen to eat with everybody else, and heard broadly similar experiences. As with last time, a lot of people had very, very good experiences in their form groups, which was really good. I think I may have given people intentionally sort of low standards so that they would be exceeded and people would be impressed by what they saw. And they were. It was really good. Generally, it was really good. There were some people in some people's forms who had put a lot of effort in, and their mini projects were genuinely really good. Charlie was telling me about an It Gets Better video that someone had created, which got shown to the form and was incredibly touching. And I've seen it and it was amazing. There were some people who did really, really good posters. There were some people who did fundraising. We haven't yet received the funds from anyone's fundraisers. For example, there's a football tournament I feel that's going on today, and our visit was yesterday, which should raise funds. But this is the kind of good stuff that people have submitted, and I told people to put an asterisk at the top of the forms of the groups that they think were contenders for the top 10 awards. And we came out with about 20 people, 20 groups who were in the running for one of the top 10 awards. So that's really, really good. That shows quite a high standard from a quarter of all the groups who took part. So that's incredibly good. What was nice actually was on the way out of school again, someone's LGBT poster for this project was up in the corridor. So we all sort of crowded around it, and it was a really, really good moment. And the people who the person who created the poster was walking by as well and looking at it, so we had a chat with her and congratulated her about. No, it was a guy actually. It was a guy with a girl. We congratulated him on his poster, and the girl he was with was a girl who had created an LGBT blog that we've all been sort of really impressed with over the last few weeks. So that was really good. So what have so we all went back to Cambridge. I collected in everyone's forms, and I'm going to tell you sort of what I've been doing since then. So about 20 groups so far have submitted their mini projects to us via emails, because I came back and checked my emails. I'm not so fussed about the people who aren't in the running to get a top 10 award, but for all the people who had asterisks on their forms, I've emailed them all saying we really need you to submit your work soon. So I've given them a deadline of either 4 p.m. today, or emailing saying when the earliest possible time you can submit your work is. Because my plan is now to get all of the contenders for the top 10 prizes together, and put them all up on the current volunteers section of the website, and put a poll on there, so all of this team can vote on who they want the top 10 people to be, groups to be, and we can do it democratically like that, and then the top 10 groups can get their awards next week in the assembly. That's all I've really been doing so far. I've just received all the projects, and there were some good projects actually that have been emailed. And now we go on to securing, if we can, any more prizes for the awards assembly. I really want to film more people saying congratulations now, because I think they deserve it, and it would make a lot more impact if there were a lot more like videos of congratulations. Planning the awards assembly, which I think should be really, really fun. A lot of that depends on who we pick to be the top 10 groups, because I feel that the awards assembly should be for the top 10 groups. We don't have time to go through all of the groups involved, so there can just be a scrolling thing in the background of all the groups who have all received certificates, and then the awards assembly can be for the top 10 groups and can showcase all of their work, particularly like some of the amazing video from Charlie's group, which is also Ed and Tasha's group. So that's that really. Getting hold of prizes. Also need to come up with evaluation forms. So I've already created an evaluation form for the volunteers, all of them, after this project has ended on the 14th of February. I need to create one, hopefully with the input of the other volunteers, who are telling me what questions probably need to be asked to the students, and also one for the teachers, I think. Some feedback so far from the volunteers have been that it's really, really important to have a supportive teacher and a form tutor with the role of controlling behaviour of the class and having authority over the class, because we're not trained teachers. We're just really, really passionate about LGBT stuff and anti-discrimination. That's what we can do. What the teachers can do without the kind of passion and particular interest that we have in LGBT stuff is support it by keeping in control of the classes. That worked really, really well in my form, but there were other forms where it was noticeably different, where teachers may have supported it, but it wasn't so obvious, and they didn't control their class as well. So it was harder for the volunteers to go around and do their job. Other stuff is that I feel that we should have 2 volunteers per class for this visit 3 type thing, because it'll, like for 50-minute lessons you can get around a lot more speedily when there are 2 people in there. Otherwise it's really hard to actually proofread people's work in time and make any meaningful comments. Really, I felt that I was lacking in time in order to thoroughly go through people's work and suggest improvements. So that's another thing that I would add. That's it really. I can't think of much else, but overall this whole report has been half an hour, so I'm gonna be quiet now. It was a really, really good visit, I felt, and I would definitely congratulate most of the students involved.